Garden Mysteries. You know, one of my favorite topics of gardening is the mysteries in the garden. Things that we don't quite understand or things that are hidden from our view. Maybe things we want to learn about but we don't quite know about yet. Or maybe just things we haven't even been aware of whatsoever yet. Things happening in the garden or things living in the garden that we just don't know about. Or things that we know somewhat about, but there are pieces of it we don't know anything about. And that's what this video is going to discuss today. So one of the main mysteries I'm thinking about lately in the garden is, where do these rabbits live? Where are these rabbits nesting? In past years, I've been kind of able to figure out somewhat where they're nesting. But this year, it's just more lush out there. It's just more private and full of foliage and lots more native plants and lots more places to hide, which is really great for the wildlife. There's this garden bed in my front garden that I call the habitat hedge. And I don't have definitive proof yet that this is where the rabbits are living, but I've seen some evidence that the rabbits are living in the habitat hedge. But the thing is, it's a garden mystery. This is just one of those fun little small mysteries in the garden that I just really enjoy. You know, it's like, I kind of like a little bit of mystery in the garden. I really like a little bit of mystery in the garden, but at the same time, my love for research and finding out answers is also a huge part of me, and so I'm always trying to figure it out. I'm always trying to figure out where the rabbits are coming from and where they're living. So sometimes I will watch out the window to try to see where they run to when they're done eating for the night or when they're done eating in the morning. And I never catch them. I never catch them running to their nest ever this year. And again, in years past, I have seen them and I've figured it out. But this year, I just, for some reason, cannot find out for sure. And I find it kind of funny because I've tried to figure it out. My husband has tried to figure it out. But keep in mind, habitat hedge is a very long garden bed. It goes all the way from the east side of my garden, right up against the front of the fence, all the way to the west side of the garden. So oftentimes I'm seeing a rabbit by itself. It's always by itself. And there's at least 2 or 3 different rabbits also. But I only see one at a time. And I've seen a large rabbit, a medium-sized rabbit, and a smaller rabbit. And I'm only ever seeing them in certain areas. So I'll see a rabbit near the east end of habitat hedge, but not in habitat hedge. I'll just see it in the lawn, right near it. The evidence that I have that they're living in habitat hedge is that I usually see them near it, but not always. The other day I was walking up the driveway and I heard this rustling in habitat hedge, and I was like, what is that? And a few minutes later I see a rabbit and I'm like, okay, so that rabbit's further away on the other side of the garden, but I hear a rustling near me, just a couple feet from me, in habitat hedge. And it kind of made me think maybe the small one is hiding in habitat hedge, but the larger one is out in the lawn on the other end of the garden. But I don't know for sure because I never did see the rustling, the actual creature who was creating the rustling, right? And then the other area I see the rabbits is the backyard, the whole other side of the entire property. Behind my house, I'll see the smaller rabbit hanging out in my newest garden back there that has the ferns and the geraniums and the obedient plant, the more moist garden back there. And it's such a small rabbit. It's such a baby that sometimes I can't even see it because I have goldenrods and asters back there that are really tall. Anyway, the point is, sometimes I'll see a rabbit back there and sometimes I'll see a rabbit up front. And the truth of the matter is, the answer to the mystery will probably never be solved because the garden is more lush and more inviting and more full than it's ever been. And therefore, it's much easier for creatures to hide, which is the whole point. And if it's easier for these creatures to hide, it's easier for them to protect themselves from predators. And I technically am a predator. Even though I'm not out there hunting rabbits, technically I have the ability to do so. So they have every inkling that they need to hide from me as well. But one fun thing is when my husband and I were out there one day in the front yard, we were on one side of the garden and there was a rabbit on the other side. And even though it was nervous about us, it didn't run away. It was like eating something out of the lawn as per usual, and we were just going about our business. And we were just trying to be really gentle about our movements and kind of just act nonchalant and just make it clear that with our body language that we are not a threat. And it worked. It never did run away from us. And we didn't get too close, but we still were able to get within a few feet of it without it startling and running away. And I feel like the more time you spend out there, the less they're like worried, because they see, oh yeah, that person's been out here many, many times that has never ran toward me, never tried to attack me, right? Now let's talk about the mystery of the wasp and the caterpillars. Wasps, they really like certain foods, right? So wasps not only pollinate flowers, but they also eat things like caterpillars. And I was out in the garden one day, or I can't remember if I was on my patio or if I was right inside my studio looking out onto the patio. I can't remember, but I saw a wasp trying to get to the caterpillars on the elderberry, on the black elderberry shrub, right? And these caterpillars are, I think, Hyphanthria cunea, which I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but it's basically like a tent caterpillar or a fall webworm, I think. And a lot of people really don't like these caterpillars because they create these webs on trees and shrubs that they eat the leaves of. And it creates a lot of webbing, and a lot of people don't like that. They think it's ugly, and they worry about the tree. Since I garden for wildlife, I'm just letting it happen, just seeing how it goes, right? And one day, I was pleasantly surprised. I was just intrigued by the mystery of this wasp and this caterpillar. So inside of this webbing, there are a bunch of caterpillars. And if you don't know, these caterpillars turn into, if I'm correct in identifying them, that is, they turn into this really pretty little pixie-like moth. And it's just pretty much white, but sometimes it can have black spots on it. And this moth is a moth I've seen up in the high elevations of the mountains. I remember going up going on a trip and going up high in the elevations of the mountains, Appalachian Mountains, and just, it was foggy, and it was kind of like, it was very humid, but it was like, I think it was spring, so it was kind of cool, but it wasn't hot, but it wasn't cold. It was kind of that middle ground, but it was a little bit cooler because it was foggy. And I remember seeing this kind of moth on the door of the restrooms. Yeah, there was restrooms up there at this trail, but there was one of these beautiful moths there. And I just remember being like, oh, it's such a beautiful, like, simple little moth. It wasn't tiny, but it wasn't big. It was kind of that small end of medium, but it just reminded me of like pixies and fairies, That is, I believe, what these caterpillars turn into. So sometimes just remember that something beautiful might actually come from something that us as humans don't find as beautiful. So they start out as caterpillars and they become butterflies or moths, right? Well, I soon found out that this webbing that a lot of us despise, I actually kind of think it's pretty, but I'm kind of weird like that. This webbing that a lot of us think is ugly is actually protecting the caterpillars, it seems, because this wasp was trying so hard to get at this caterpillar, and it just couldn't get it, right? It just kept trying and trying and trying, and I noticed that the wasp's legs were getting like caught in the web, but it just kept trying. I don't even have all the footage on here because it was that determined to get that caterpillar. And you could see the caterpillars move, and I think it's called synchrony. According to Wikipedia, larvae are known to wiggle vigorously at periodic intervals in synchrony. How they synchronize these movements, especially when disturbed over a wide area, has not been established. So that is quoting Wikipedia, and that is adding to this mystery, right? This garden mystery. So Eventually the wasp just had to give up because it could not get the caterpillar. And I really think it's the web protecting the caterpillar, and I think that's why they have adapted this way. I've also seen yellow jackets trying to get these caterpillars too, so it's not just the paper wasps that I'm seeing trying to get them. It's just that time of year where these wasps and yellow jackets are just really hungry and really looking for something to eat and kind of struggling to find what they need. That's all I have for you today. These are just a few little garden mysteries, and I can't wait to share more garden mysteries with you. This is one of my favorite topics. What are some garden mysteries that you have figured out in your garden or not figured out in your garden? Sometimes it's even better when it's just unsolved. I don't know why. I don't know. There's just something about having these little things in the garden that we don't know just kind of makes it that much more fun to try to figure out, right? So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys! Hand-painted collector cards inspired by the creatures, plants, and objects in my garden. Available now at macylou.com. Thanks for supporting the channel and the wildlife habitat we create. To support the channel, like the video, comment, and subscribe. You can also support my work by buying art from me at macylou.com. Thanks for watching!